To hear the John McCain of the past 10 days, one would think the Republican nominee has been possessed by the ghost of Franklin Roosevelt, presenting himself as an economic everyman, distrustful of unfettered capitalism. Kind of odd coming from the man who, in a fairly obscure actuarial journal called Contingencies, recently wrote of deregulating the healthcare industry. Quote, opening up the health insurance market to more vigorous nationwide competition, as we have done over the last decade in banking, would provide more choices of innovative products, less burdened by the worst excesses of state-based regulation. Douglas Holtz-Eakin, the same advisor who implied that McCain invented the BlackBerry, he says that quote was being taken out of context. He says McCain was referring to cross-state purchasing of health insurance. But if you look at John McCain's record and even comments he made to 60 Minutes last night, it's clear where he stands on deregulation.
In 1999, you were one of the senators who helped pass deregulation of Wall Street. Do you regret that now?
No, I think the deregulation was probably helpful to the growth of our economy.
Just 3 weeks ago at the Republican National Convention, Mitt Romney promised McCain would take a weed whacker to regulation. Today, McCain struck a much different tone.
We won't solve a problem caused by poor oversight with a plan that has no oversight. As we determine what to do, we need to put our country first and what's best for Main Street. Not Washington, not Wall Street, but Main Street.
So John McCain is surrounded by a political team that is very full of lobbyists, including Rick Davis of Fannie Freddie infamy. And he has long boasted of his dedication to deregulation, because there's nothing government can do that an unfettered Wall Street can't do better. And now for the last week, he is a mad-as-heck regulating populist. I feel like I missed something here. I feel like John McCain may now try to win the election as an anti-Reagan candidate. Joining us now, no doubt to disagree with me, but in a nice way, is MSNBC political analyst and my friend Pat Buchanan. Hi, Pat. Nice to see you.
Hi, Rachel. How are you doing? You having a good night?
Yes, thanks. Indeed.
Right.
Pat, I thought of you when I heard John McCain suggest last night that Andrew Cuomo could be his SEC chair. And then he said that he wants Warren Buffett to be on an oversight board. Is he dropping Democratic names to concede that being a Republican is a kind of a liability right now?
No, I think Warren Buffett's a name that everybody approves of. He's got a terrific record of investment, and everybody listens to him as a great oracle. Cuomo, he's a regulator, I suppose, and he replaces the SEC fellow whom John McCain wants replaced. I don't see any problem with that. McCain has always said he's going to have sort of a bipartisan administration. I would guess that Joe Lieberman will be Secretary of State.
That would make it tripartisan, because that would be the Connecticut for Lieberman party represented as well.
It would be the independent.
The independents, that's right. Do you think that McCain can successfully act like a populist and be a pro-regulation guy on the economy now, given how strongly he has spoken out against regulation in the past?
I wouldn't put it past him for this reason, Rachel. We have had a 9/11 event in the markets. I would not have favored a $700 billion bailout or any bailout 2 weeks ago. We had a real disaster, an almost seizing up of the banks, collapsing of banks everywhere, with people destroyed who are utterly innocent. I think Paulson probably did the right thing on Friday. I said so. I do believe now let's take a second look at this, and we aren't going to bail out every deadbeat in America as some of the Democrats want to do. I think this is, as George Will said, something dramatic has happened, and we see how people react and respond in crisis according to their principles, and I don't fault John McCain that much. Clearly, he was wrong-footed last week.
Well, on the big issues, though, I wonder if there's going to be an ideological split on this, because there aren't very many people who are saying, don't throw the life ring, don't rescue the economy. But the analysis of this is that the fact that there wasn't regulation is a big reason why this all happened. And so if deregulation is the cornerstone of fiscal conservatism in the Republican Party, is that going to go away?
No. If you guarantee, for example, deposits up to $100,000, you got to have rules and regulations of the people who control those deposits. But let me say this: the core of this is, as you've mentioned, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac corruption down there with, frankly, Franklin Raines and all these Democrats looting the place for scores of millions, putting Congress on the payroll, no oversight from Congress, no oversight from Treasury, little oversight from the SEC. You've clearly got a disaster on our hands. It is a bipartisan disaster in my judgment. And again, we judge people by how they handle this. As I said, McCain was wrong-footed last Monday, clearly, but he does seem to be moving in a correct direction as I see it right now, which is we may have to do this, but we certainly aren't going to give away $700 billion to somebody to spend taking care of his old friends on Wall Street.
Well, Pat, I mean, you can talk about Franklin Raines being a bad guy. You can find Democrats who have been deregulators too, but this isn't a Democrat-Republican problem necessarily. This is a conservative problem. It is a tenet of American conservatism that regulation is bad and that the markets ought to be left alone. The reason that Fannie and Freddie had John McCain's campaign manager on the payroll for $30,000 a month is because they wanted no regulation. They wanted what conservatives want. I want to know how conservatives show their face in responding to this crisis without acknowledging that their basic philosophy is at the root of it.
Well, my basic philosophy is you don't give mortgages to people who have no credit worthiness, who have income that shows they cannot handle the mortgage, who don't put any money down. This was liberalism run wild in a lot of ways in there. I mean, who's pushing all that money into subprime mortgages? That's right. Not conservative banking in my judgment.
But Pat, that's because the conservatives changed the rules so that it made sense for Wall Street to make those loans because they sent them on. This was Bill Graham's big idea. The rules are wrong. What did Wall Street do?
Wall Street bought the stupid loans put out there by Freddie Mac, which were all put together, bundled together, turned into securities. And you're right, they failed in their job, and they should lose their shirts. The people that did that. But the core of this is in government failure at Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac and all the rest.
In this case,
got them backwards.
In this case, we do agree that government is the problem. Pat, thank you for joining us. Always great.
Trying to solve its own crisis.
Well, government is the problem here when it's run by people who don't believe government should work well. But we'll have to leave it there until I can see you sometime out for a drink, Pat. Thanks for joining us.